finding clarity in chaos is
Yeah.
challenging. So share with us a little bit about how you get from internal chaos to that level of clarity.
That comes to the second half of the title of the book, which is 7 Vital Virtues to Turn Struggle into Strength.
Mm.
There are certain virtues that we need to practice that help us in that journey. One of the ones that I struggled with the most in that process was patience. Yeah. Because I wanted it all to be over fast and I wanted just to be out of the situation as quickly as I could. I wasn't even concerned at that point with learning any particular lesson, yeah, or seeing any particular value in the adversity. It's great to, using your words from earlier, to theoretically put this language around adversity and say, yes, it's the human experience to have the dark spaces and the opposition and what have you, and we need to embrace it. But when you're in it, you necessarily want to say, I'm going to assign value to this, look for the good in it, and where's the lesson? I just want it out. Yeah, and so one of the first points was really learning to be patient with it. My wife and I have a saying in our bedroom on our bookshelf that says, no one knows how strong they are until being strong is the only choice they have. Yeah, and in that moment, I was in that place because I went to the UK, had that experience. I went to catch up with my father. All of the family that I'd grown up with were on the other side of the world. My support system was not around me. So I was actually going through that process quite alone. Yeah. And what did I need in order to get order out of chaos? First, I had to be patient and see it as a process. The challenge is, what happens if you don't have any? What's the starting point? It's so easy from the outside to turn to someone in that moment, say to the younger self, I love this question that you ask, what would you say to your younger self? I wouldn't say, just be patient.
Mm-hmm.
Now that sounds, again, paradoxical, because here I am saying you got to have patience. Mm-hmm. Because telling someone to have patience when they don't, for a start, is really annoying. Right?
100% agree, yes.
Yeah, just be patient. You'll get through. This too shall pass.
If I had patience, I would have been patient already. So
exactly.
I don't have patience, and you telling me to have patience.
It makes you just want to punch them in the head.
That's right.
It's like, don't tell me that. So the critical thing is, how do I develop patience? How do I acquire that when I don't have it? And research has shown that when we can engage our imagination with a circumstance or situation that we're involved in, that imagination enables us to increase and grow our capacity to be patient far more than simply white-knuckling it or trying to just grin and bear it through sheer willpower alone.
Can you say that again?
So our capacity to engage our imagination with a particular trial or difficult set of circumstances increases our ability to be patient far more than simply white-knuckling it or using our sheer willpower to just grin and bear it and get through it. So the question is then, how do I engage my imagination in order to increase my capacity to be patient? And the process around that is to have a vision of the end in mind. What does the end look like? And when you're wallowing in self-pity, when you're, just struggling with your sense of self and identity, when you're overwhelmed with the overwhelm of the adversity that you're going through, then being able to take a step back for a small moment and just project yourself into a future state where this is ended and look at what that is defined like, how that looks and feels, can be very transformative. Have you heard of the Stockdale paradox? The Stockdale paradox. So the Stockdale paradox, Admiral Jim Stockdale was the highest ranking military official that was captured during the Vietnam War. Okay. And he caught the world's attention for two reasons. One, he was the highest ranking military official to be captured. He was an admiral. But two, when he came out of that prisoner of war camp, he was imprisoned, I think, for about 8 years. When he came out of that prisoner of war camp, he came out a stronger and better person.
Mm.
How does that work? While he was imprisoned, yeah, he saw his friends and colleagues die around about him. He was tortured at least 20 times, and he had no date. Being a prisoner of war is different to being a regular prisoner.
Yeah.
Being a regular prisoner, you've got a deadline. I know on this date I've got a release.
Yeah.
And I can see my family. They can come and visit me, what have you. You're not going to get a visit from your family, and you've got no release date. And we may beat the heck out of you today if we choose.
Yeah, there's that factor of randomness of, I may beat you whenever I want to.
Yeah, the randomness and the no end of the whole experience turns it into a very different scenario. So he was being interviewed once, and the person said to him, of all the people that you saw die in the camp, who were the first to go? And he said, if we break it down into three groups, the pessimist, the optimist, the realist, who were the first to die? Because it wasn't from malnourishment. It wasn't because they weren't being fed. They were. So they were dying for other reasons. Who were the first to die? Now, I've asked this question to audiences now in about 20 or so different countries, to audiences of entrepreneurs. Who do you think would be the first to die? The optimist, the realist, or the pessimist?
Probably the pessimist.
It was the optimist.
Huh, interesting. Okay.
It was the optimist. Now, your answer is the common answer of the entrepreneur, right? The entrepreneur goes, well, the pessimist is going to be the first to die. I've got the right attitude. Actually, the optimist was the first to go. And this is what would happen. They'd go, oh, don't worry about it, guys. We'll be out for Christmas. And then Christmas would come and go. They wouldn't get out. Or don't worry about it. Valentine's Day's coming. We'll be out for then. Thanksgiving, Easter, whatever it might be. We'll be out for this date. And it would come and go, and they wouldn't get out. And they eventually died of a broken spirit. It just destroyed them. And so the interviewer said to him, what was your approach? What made it work for you? And this is the Stockdale paradox. They named it after him. He said, first of all, I had to accept the brutal facts of my present reality. And for him, that was, I'm a prisoner of war. I don't know where I'm getting out. I may get tortured at some point today. There's some brutal facts. I don't know about you or about anyone that's listening right now, but I'm pretty sure our brutal facts may not be as brutal as that.
Probably not. Probably not.
We can have some tough ones, and I don't want to belittle them. But first of all, if you really want to win, accept the brutal facts of your present reality. He said, and then he said, you also have to have confidence in the end of your story. Accept the brutal facts, but have confidence in the end of your story. And he said, and for me, the end of my story was, and this was his vision. Yeah, this was the engagement of his imagination to see him through the process and enable him to be patient with his suffering. For me, that was that not only would I get out, but that I would turn this experience into the defining experience of my life that in retrospect, I would not trade. I'm not going to trade this for anything. It's going to define who I become. Now, that to me is a vision for the future. That means, okay, I need to get through this moment, but I'm going to make this moment count, because when I get out of this situation, I'm going to become a new creature. And it's going to give me something that I wouldn't trade for anything. And to add to that, Viktor Frankl, in total agreement with this principle of life is suffering, he said, because all lives experience suffering, if life is to have meaning, then suffering must also have meaning. Because whilst time heals all wounds, it also wounds all heals. If you can wrap your head around that, yeah,
for sure.
So in that context, if life is to have meaning, there must be meaning in the suffering. And so coming out of that scenario, what is the value of that journey? For a couple of things come to mind here. One, the relationship with my father is what it should be now, versus a pretense of what it might have been if I hadn't taken the right steps. So that's critical. The people that were victims of his inappropriate behavior, have the chance to have justice and move forward with their own lives as well. So there's healing and opportunity for growth for them as well. But that's also fed, and me as a human being, as a principle of confronting the suffering, the pain, have learned immeasurable lessons that have informed my responsibilities as a father, have informed my role as a husband, and have influenced me as a leader. Because as a business leader, as an entrepreneur, I am constantly confronted with the necessity to make tough decisions and to interpret reality versus bury my head in the sand.